Good evening, folks, and welcome to Ulster Rugby Championship Craic, part of the ThreeBOD group. Tonight we are sponsored by K-Naco Biltong. Joined tonight by Chris Brownfield from South Wales URC, normal co-host, and another normal co-host down below, David Toppin. Gents, how are you?
Not too bad, boys. We're all good, thank you. All good. Looking forward to the show tonight. Bit of crack.
Great stuff. Okay, so tonight we're going to go through. We'll start off probably. We'll have a review of the three internationals that Ireland played for the autumn games, and we'll be discussing the upcoming fixture this weekend against Leinster. We've got a nice little interview to show tonight, which I will let David tell you about. David and Chris actually set this up, but I'll let you discuss that. And David's also going to tell us a bit about what SWRC are doing for the upcoming clash with the Ospreys in regard to their fan zone, and it's good stuff. I was hoping to actually get over and can't make it this time, but I will be getting over to that at some stage this season, mate, because it looks fantastic. And we'll finish off with any other detail. We have a couple of little things to say at the end. But David, what's the interview that we're going to see this evening?
Well, I managed to get my hand, and I have to thank Chris for this one. This was an excellent call on his part. We managed to grab a lot of minutes with Ulster Academy Manager Gavin HOGG, who's just come in and he's settled in really well. He's had a wee chat with us about where he's come from, where things are at the minute. People that we need to keep a wee eye on over the next 6 to 12 months. Obviously, his plans for past the season. But we started off by looking at at where he came from, where he started, and so have we look at this interview? Very, very enlightening.
Good stuff. We'll get right into that very soon. Want to have a chat about the internationals. Obviously, we had 3 games, which I think everybody thoroughly enjoyed, and some of us can probably remember some of them too. Started off on the 6th of November against Japan. It was 60 points to 5 win for Ireland. We then moved to the 13th of November, where we played New Zealand in what was, I have to say, a superb game of rugby. And Ireland won that 29-20. And finished the series off on the 21st of November with a 53-7 win over Argentina. So we'll very quickly go through them one at a time. The first game against Japan, just through sort of quick views I had, I thought that I did honestly think Japan looked very poor, and I wondered if that's what helped Ireland's result against them. I had to kind of change my mind a little when we seen the following week's result, but it was a comprehensive hammering of the side. I felt sorry for the Japanese because they've been so entertaining. I do think they lack games, and that probably did reduce their input a little because they seem to have picked up a bit by the time they play Scotland. Unless we're saying Ireland are actually that much better than Scotland, which, by the way, could be true too. We've yet to see if that is the case. But I felt that whilst, yes, Ireland absolutely destroyed them in every part of the field, even when they had the ball in hand, they didn't really come at us at all, did they? They just kicked the ball away all the time. And I worried that it didn't really give us a true picture of where Ireland were. So before we move on to the next game, which kind of changed my mind, and honest, what were your thoughts on it, Chris?
The Japan game, it was almost one of those where you think there's these different tiers in World Rugby. We know that in the last Rugby World Cup, Japan were obviously immense. We know that. And they didn't bring that far part of the party, but it almost was one of those games that it probably set Ireland up really well against New Zealand. Let them hit their lines, let them actually figure out their moves, their game lines and bits and pieces. Johnny Watt was just made a comment there that they shouldn't have let Japan score, and you know what, there's a lot of credibility in that, but you've got to send them home with a token gesture, haven't you? But defensively, I thought Ireland were absolutely fantastic. An attacking line, absolutely incredible. And some of the players, put their hand up for almost, and that came later on in the New Zealand game anyway, but started to show their flair, started to show what they were capable of. And we know there's a very, very strong Leinster contingent in that squad, so they were very much conditioned to play alongside each other. So that wasn't too much of an issue in terms of merging playing styles. But they absolutely thumped Japan, and it could easily have been, one of those games that was a false indicator. Maybe they had more to offer, maybe they didn't. And it's one of those. Ulster have been told the same this year. The first 4 games were non-games, and we got found out against Connacht. And you could easily have seen that Japanese result almost reflecting that opportunity. And as it was, that didn't turn out to be the case at all. So, it was. Some would argue it shouldn't have gone ahead, but then there's a few of those games have happened over the.
I will say though, the try that Japan scored was a carbon copy of one Ireland has scored in the first half in the contact and an offload to a player coming at its pace. So somebody paid attention, to what Ireland were doing for a few minutes in the second half. Anyway, David, what do you think?
For me, it was more just a case of getting game minutes in. Start looking at plays. What are you going to do against the All Blacks? Yes, Japan lacked the game time that they so well needed, but you're right. They certainly showed it. A couple of weeks later against Scotland, but in the end, I think it was comprehensive. Yes, I agree with Johnny Wabba. They shouldn't have been allowed to score, but then saying that, and especially in international and at a test level, fatigue's going to be greater than it would be within URC. So all in all, it was a good performance in terms of getting everything orchestrated for the All Blacks.
Brilliant. Well, we'll move on to that game now because, as I say, and you thought it was really hard to know where we were after the Japan game because we didn't know were they really that bad or were Ireland really that good. Again, quick view. We know the score. We know who scored. But for me, it was the intensity that Ireland brought. They never let up for 80 minutes. They didn't give New Zealand an inch of room. And they did it for 80 minutes. And one of the things that impressed me was because I knew that the caveat will be we know New Zealand had been in camp for a long time. We know they were probably a bit tired. But, are those excuses? I don't know. That's for others to say. But what I always found was that New Zealand tend to ramp the wick up in the last 20 minutes, and I think they tried to do that. And that's the stage where Ireland are emptying their bench and things can go a bit sideways, and they didn't. And they didn't in the first game either, but again, we weren't sure where we were there. But they didn't let up for the 80 minutes. And I will say, look, delighted with that win. When you beat the All Blacks, you're happy. Anybody is. It could easily have went the other way as well, though. There was one instance where I think it was James Lowe made a tackle and Palm got over for the steal. And you watched that attack and you thought, oh, my God, they're away here. But they stopped it and, in fact, then scored another penalty to extend the lead, and that was the game over. Fantastic win, but it was the intensity, the physicality. As for the wide playing, that's a style that they're obviously trying to adopt in Ireland. They're trying to play it a bit wider, vary the point of attack, etc. Play it wide. And I actually think that suits more to what the provinces do anyway. So I think that style of play is in the provinces. And what we're doing now is bringing that into an international level with international coaching. As for the numbers and the makeup, we'll come to that at the end. We'll briefly discuss that at the end. But again, I'll go to you first, David, this time on the All Blacks game. Just your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I was absolutely over the moon. I thought, I have to agree with you, Nigel. The pressure they put on the All Blacks was nothing short of almighty. And I think what got me was the fact that we managed to get away with a few decisions that could have went the other way and certainly could have resulted in cards. But for me, I think all in all, I think maybe we're starting to see the type of rugby that Farrell wants us to play. I think it's going to be probably the template that we'll see now for the Six Nations. As far as that goes, knowing that it worked well against the world champions, or the many-time world champions, the way I look at it, it's probably the best all-round Irish performance I've seen in a few years, I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm. Chris?
Yeah, for me, it was a pleasure to see the box kick put to bed finally. There is no point in box kicking the Barrett brothers. There's no point in box kicking the Will Jordan. Those guys will absolutely light the park up every day of the week. And they decided to keep the ball in hand. And you're going to win a game if you've got the ball. That's as simple as. Their attack was absolutely immense from start to finish. And normally speaking, you'd expect the Kiwis to step up at 60 minutes, stay in touch roughly till 60, and then literally hit the litmus paper. I was lucky enough to be in the Principality Stadium for the Wales-New Zealand game and just watched some of the most phenomenal back row play and back line play from the Barretts and from Will Jordan and likes, and it was just phenomenal and easy on the eye. And they didn't get a chance to bring that to the party. Ireland were absolutely dominant from 1 to 80 all day, and the match 23, you know, you got to say the selectors got an absolute bang on. It was a superb performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we'll discuss this at the end because I've made comments online and I feel the need to explain them a little. Where I've been challenged. People thought I've been doing this a certain way, which I might have been at the start, but you try to be objective too because we've got to look forward here as well. Sorry, David, you're going to say something?
Oh, I'm going to say, is it time to put the box kick on 6 foot under with a wee stone on the top?
Oh, definitely. No question.
Yeah, well, the box kick is a tool, but like any other tool in the toolbox, it's not to be used all the time. You know, there's a time.
It was in the Wales-New Zealand game. They got absolutely thrashed on the high ball.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
if you hand it back to the Kiwis, they will come at you with pace.
It did make a slight appearance the following week against Argentina. And I must admit, I was the same. I mean, that was a quite an easy win. I think we all knew we'd win that one quite handy. One call I did make was, and I asked it about 15 minutes into the game, was at what time will Lavanini get a card? He didn't let me down. He lost at 59, but he got his card. And it was a fairly comprehensive and easy win. But in the early part of that game, there was a bit of box kicking. And it was too long, and we're gripped in royal box kick. You know, and we saw a bit of it. But, and actually, you know, we've got to be careful because we criticize and we tend to lean on one player. You know, I'm sure it's been hard to get this team to play this style and believe in it because that's not how they played for years under Joe Smith, but they seem to have bought into it. And that'll bring us on to a conversation after this about Leinster and the participation of the other provinces. But, you know, they've adapted to it. They're playing it so well. And actually, in that game, it definitely did speed up once Casey came on. You know, he's a nippy little animal, him, like, and the passing from the base was so quick. He did box kick the odd time. I don't mind box kicks if they're used occasionally and they're short enough that your wingers and other players can get to them and compete. It's when they're too long and it just seems to be an aimless kick then. Like we saw Japan do against Ireland, frankly. They ran out of ideas and they just hoofed the ball up the park. You know, and they were box kicking it to nobody and it was just coming straight back at them. And we saw too much of that. And there's teams you can't do that against, as you rightly say, Chris, the All Blacks being one of them. And there are others. South Africa is an example. Australia is an example. England are an example. Look at the back three Scotland and Wales have now. I mean, all these teams are brimming with really fast attacking back three players. Don't kick the bloody ball to them, you know. Keep the ball in hand. Ireland are doing that now. But it was a slow start for Ireland. Argentina scored first. It took them a wee while to get into their straps. I think it did. They were a bit, I don't know, rusty. They were a bit slow off the mark, maybe a bit late off the bus. A lot of changes before the game, has to be said. I mean, we had lost Jack Conan, and then minutes before kickoff, we lost Ian Henderson. And did we lose a third one?
There was someone else. I'm trying to think who it was. I think there was.
There was a third one, wasn't there?
I think there was.
Because that's what it was. It was Jack Conan pulling out. Who had we lost before? We'd lost somebody before that. Somebody remind us in the audience who we'd lost. But
Ryan. There you are.
Ryan. We lost. Yeah.
Thank you, Gregor.
We lost Ryan. Then we lost Jack Conan. Then we lost Hendo just before kickoff. I mean, those are three big players to lose. those are three big players to lose in a starting 15. But Baird stepped in. We had Palm stepped in. Nick Timoney was given a phone call at 8:15 on Sunday morning.
He's having a lie-in.
Can you get down here? Right, that's right. He said he was half asleep when Joe rang him. And it's only that he'd asked somebody else for his number, or he would have thought it was a joke. And they're going, right, we need you to get your kit and get down here, you know. And he's like, well, I was looking forward to a lie. Probably looking forward to a lie in, a cup of coffee, watch the game and shout the lads on. And the next thing he knew, he was going down the road and he turned out and he played 20 minutes. And apparently he was supposed to watch the game with Dave O'Connor because they'd watched the game the day before. And he said, I'll give you a call and we'll decide where we're going to watch the game. And he sent him a text. He didn't reply. And he apparently sent him a text again and said, where the hell were you? Where the hell are you? We're supposed to meet up today. I'm in Dublin. The next thing you seen him on the TV and went, what? He put on, what the hell?
Yeah, I'm in the Sandy Mount having breakfast.
I'm in the Sandy Mount having breakfast, that's right. So, you know, what a hell of a day for him. Strange day. From an Ulster perspective, because I mean, some of the players that were superb in that. I mean, obviously, Tag Furlong was fantastic. Baird sprints like a winger. That guy's got some pace on him. And I actually thought he'd go round the outside of that winger and finish that try. He didn't think he'd do it. He didn't think he'd do it, and he pulled in. And I was going, "You've got the beating of him. Keep going, because he's a big lad. I think he would, if you could have handed him off, run over the top of him, whatever."
As Keith Rolston says, really sorry for Balakoon, and I would have to join Keith in that. The ball rarely got out to his.
He didn't get a pass until the 37th minute,
right.
And then he got two little bursts that led up to one of the tries. Yeah. Somebody said to me, and I won't name anybody during the week, they thought he had a terrible game, and I was going, he had butter fingers, and I was thinking, that's not the game I was watching. I didn't see anything he did wrong, particularly, if I'm honest. Just he didn't get to do enough of it. And if you noticed in the first half, I'll tell you, I was actually saying it was really strange in the first half of that game because Ireland constantly played to the left and Argentina constantly played to the right. And I was sitting thinking, you know, I've never considered, is that a Viva pitch on a hill? Because it was all one side of the pitch.
No, I just think they're all listening to Steelers wheel in the middle of it, you know.
And and then all of a sudden it did pop out that side, and Rob got a wee run. But James Lowe was coming in looking for work a lot of the time, which is okay to do against opposition like that, I think, because you can get caught out not being in position. And somebody had said to me, why isn't Balakoon doing that too? And I was thinking, do you want both your wings in narrow off the park? Because if the ball gets turned over, it could be in behind you very quick. But no, I think when he had the ball, Balakoon, he did all right. He did fine. He just didn't get much of it. And in fact, we talked about how good a day James Lowe had, and he did have a good day, and he tackled well, which was a strange thing to be saying about James Lowe. He tackled well. But he did.
He carried that form over from the New Zealand game.
He did. Did you know Robert Balakoon made far more meters than James Lowe did? No, check the stats. For the few times he had the ball, he made more meters. So it just shows you the wingers were not heavily involved in the attack and play either wing. They were having to come in to look for bits of ball, and I just thought they weren't involved enough. We didn't go wide. I think we reverted a little bit more to form in that game. We came a little bit more narrow. We tried to beat them up front. And fair enough, after 59 minutes, when Lavini did his almost predictable stunt, which was, Palm's reaction to that was absolute magic. Scum! Scum!
I don't know who his swearing coach is.
Who's swearing coaches? Yeah. Sack him now. But Lavini deserved that red. That was a terrible. And I don't even know what he was thinking. He wasn't clearing a player out. He was at the back of the rock. He was at the back of the rock getting up, and he just came in and whacked him. It was just what. There was only one outcome there. He was going off the park, and geez, what a silly man. The guy's a liability in any team he plays in, to be honest. I'm sorry. He seems to just see a red mist at some stage in the game and just do stupid things, and blatantly stupid things. He assaulted Cian Healy there. That wasn't even, he assaulted him. But I thought Carberry shone well when he was on. Nobody played badly. You know what I mean? Nobody played badly. But yeah, the wings didn't get the balls a lot. Lowe was coming in an awful lot in the first half and the second half. Balogun started coming in a bit in the second half. I preferred to have seen the wingers used because, you know, we had two really good attacking wingers and didn't really use them that much. And I think we could have done a lot of harm with them. So brilliant in a sense. Well, who were your standout players? I mean, as I said, it's hard to pick one because there were so many of them were that good, I thought.
Yeah, for me, Furlong was just great. You know, and just has been immense. His stepping, his power moves. You know, he's just becoming the all-round player, isn't he?
He really has, and great news for Leinster and Ireland that he's signed a 3-year extension. His contract.
Yeah.
Here, Nigel. Sorry to interrupt you here, but somebody just come in here on me. Somebody we haven't seen on the show for quite a while. Evening, gentlemen.
I know that fella. How you doing? Good to see you.
We keeping all right?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Fingers crossed for 5 points at the weekend against the Leinster.
Absolutely. Let's give them something to laugh
about. they could be limping through the weekend by the looks of it. So fingers crossed Big Dan doesn't decide to drop a couple of boys. Give them a rest off the international window.
Joe Shep has already predicted a draw for that match.
There'll be no draw.
Oh dear. We'll see you soon, man.
See you later.
Keep it up.
But yeah, I think Furlong, and I say for Leinster and Ireland, what a coup getting him for another 3 years. Superb news. I'll discuss a little bit because I say there were a lot of comments made about the number of Leinster players in the team, and maybe I don't express myself very well at times when I said it wasn't a provincially representative team, and I got launched on straight away. You know, terrible. And I went, no, hear me out. It was an Ireland team, yeah, but it wasn't provincially representative. It was Leinster with a few other players. Munster pretty much had the bench, and that's not a criticism of Leinster or the IRFU. It's just a fact, and the results totally justified the picks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my worry is going forward. My worry going forward is, if you imagine players are going into international camps and they're availing of that international training, okay, and they're already a team. I actually get the consistency thing with Leinster. The best province, they're always going to be the backbone of the team, but they're a bit more than the backbone of the team. Let's be honest. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. We could see a starting 15 with one other player, and that could happen. You know, we're close. We had 13 in the first game. My worry is, if they're availing of international training at that level and starting most of those games, we run the risk of a bigger gap appearing between Leinster and the other three provinces, because they're at that level and they'll be coached at that level, and that level will continue. It's what we do to make sure the other three provinces, not just a handful of players, the other three provinces can buy into or somehow get availability of the moves, the coaching ticket, whatever, so that they're still in there with a shot. Because if you have a really good individual, he could get onto the team.
Yeah, but we've also seen that as soon as those players leave Leinster to go to another province, their Irish ticket slides very, very quickly. You know,
well, we got to stop that. We just need to stop that, because it doesn't work, and B, it doesn't really improve the province they go to. Frankly, I mean, Ulster have improved a bit, but as you say, they move out, their international ticket's gone anyway, so that's a pointless move, in my opinion. And what we don't want to do is have Leinster being, if you like, the Irish core of the team or the Irish team, and the also rounds and that we might need them is being shifted into the other provinces. You know, because you run the risk of diluting identity, and it means the whole thing fails. And it also totally relies on Leinster being successful, because if Leinster do get a bigger gap and then stop being successful, bang, you're back. So it's how we make sure the other provinces are in touch with the training techniques, in touch with, you know, and I know people go, you know, well, it's up to Ulster and Leinster or Connacht and Munster to step up. That might be hard to do if they're not availing of international coaching going forward, and Leinster are. You end up with
I think the other part of that, Nigel, is that it's also about the impact it has on support base across the island of Ireland.
Oh, that's inevitable. Yeah, that's
know,
inevitable.
You know, and we just know there's going to be a quarter, not a quarter, but a segment of the fan base who will think, you know what, I'm not prepared to support a non-representative, international side. But as Connor said, I think just now it's picked on form, so the coaches aren't doing anything untoward or anything else. And Carberry has been brilliant.
Oh no, they're not. They're not. But you're absolutely right. Fans across the island are not going to. I mean, basically, if we get the 13, 14 players from Leinster starting, rightly or wrongly, on form, as they say, the bottom line is the fan base are watching one province playing.
Yeah.
And it will dilute the fan base. And, because at the end of the day, you support the players you watch week in, week out. You love to see them get their way through. They want to play for Ireland. So you want them to play for Ireland because they want to. If they don't want to play for Ireland, they're not bothered about it. Neither am I, but they do. Because my attitude always is, if they ain't in green, they're in white. My only concern is, and if you're a Leinster fan, come on, it's fantastic times. You're going to bum it up and go, but you have to, I agree with Chris. It will dilute if it goes on for years and years. I think it'll go on for 2 years anyway, but it will dilute the width of support across the island slightly because it'll be one team really.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a danger. I was accused of being parochial at one point, Nigel, and
I was accused
about the selection. But you know what? In the wise words of Father Dougal, I says, "Well, down with that sort of thing." I agree that it needs to be picked on form, but if there are things that say our players have to improve on, and even Farrell himself says, "Look, I've left a few things with them, to work on." If they work on it, and they will, there's absolutely no guarantee that they're going to get back during the Six Nations or even next year. It's just a matter of, yes, for now we pick on form, but there is that danger that there could be, you could be dependent on Leinster too much, and then that dilutes Leinster's ability to play in other tournaments.
That's right, because Leinster are going to pick up injuries here, and they're going to lose players.
Well, Tucker injuries, can I just say, where are we at with obviously Sexton? Another injury, for example, and that's just a key thing. And someone, I think it was Johnny Walker said earlier on, at what point is Sexton got to retire and hand over the keys to somebody else? And I think Connor came back and said, well, at the end of the day, he is playing well, and there's no question. But he's picking up far more injuries far more often at this stage now. And his body, how long is it going to hold out at this level?
Well, we're seeing it, absolutely. And we're seeing it in Wales well, when Jones as well. That one looks a bit at the minute, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to give you an example of why, and there's some people that might even be on the comments that I've had this conversation with over the years. I remember having a chat about Rob Baloucoune, I think it was last season or the season before, and saying, this lad's fantastic. I really think he should get a crack training with Ireland, maybe getting a game with Ireland. And 3 or 4 people whom I've known well came back at me with, he's not played enough games for Ulster. He's never played at European level. He has no experience at this level of rugby. Those very same people supported a prop coming into the Ireland setup, having played, was it 4 or 5 games? Now, don't get me wrong. The lad's a talent, and you can't argue with him being there. No, sorry, hooker. The hooker that was brought in. Well, what do you call him? The Leinster hooker. Not Keller, obviously. The other one. He's played, 4 or 5 games for Leinster, senior team. He's never played a European game. He's got no experience at that level. And he walked into the team and he played well, which is great.
If you're good enough, you should on the park.
But the very same people that are supporting him were telling me when I was going, I really think they should have a look at this lad, was, no, Dan Sheehan, that's the one, Dan Sheehan. We're saying, no, he's got no experience at European level. He's not played enough games for Ulster. He shouldn't be considered. Until that player came in, but he's good, isn't he? Yeah, I know. But so's Rob Baloucoune. That was the argument I was making. I'm going to be honest with you. We're all a bit parochial, whether we admit it or not. And people say to me, I'm not being parochial at all. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. You always have that attachment to your own province's players a bit more than you would to somebody else's. You can say I don't. You can say I don't. No, absolutely not. Do not. Don't believe it. I'm sorry. Don't believe it. But anyway, how do we Gerald's absolutely right, by the way. The other problems is do have to step up. But given that there could be a bit of a gap in the quality of training that generally the players and squads are getting, how do we get around that? Is there any way around that? Or do we just have to wait until Leinster fall flat in their face because they run out of players or whatever, and then take it up? Wolf Hounds as well.
Yeah, I think it's down to Gavin HOGG to set the academy going forward, and it's going to be another. Obviously, we're now starting to see the fruits in Ulster Rugby of Kieran Campbell's work, and I think the work that Kieran's done and Willie Anderson. Now we've got Willie Falloon, we've got Gavin HOGG. I think Connor's probably said it in there. Leinster jumped ahead with their academy and their underage development of players and all that kind of stuff, and that's where we were miles behind. And that might just link perfectly to where we're going with Gavin's interview anyway about what's going forward in Ulster. But I think it's not the here and now team; it's the what's coming through is where the difference is for Ulster, Munster, Connacht to catch up.
We're going to discuss the game at the weekend, but I'd like to jump into the Gavin HOGG interview if we can, lads, and get that, because that's got a bit of time on it, and I want the viewers to see that, because it was great of him to give the interview. We need to watch it. So, David, if we could get that interview of yours on and have a look at that, very interesting to hear what Gavin has to say.
Come on, Earl, Rugby Tea. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the WhiteWalkers chat and Craic. Got a bit of a special one for you. We've got a guy here who started off as a teacher, became a rugby coach, had a little role with under-16s in Northampton, moved to Bury St Edmunds, even spent some time in Nigeria, and all of a sudden he's ended up somewhere in the middle of Northern Ireland coaching the Ulster Rugby Academy. Please welcome Gavin HOGG.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you. I'm good, thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Oh, here, thanks for joining us this evening, and it's great to finally put names to faces and obviously get to know the people behind the club as well. Obviously, the academy playing such a major role with Ulster Rugby now and in the next few years, and it's great to sort of get to know you and get to see your ideas and where you think you're going to take the academy guys from here. But first of all, I want to sort of give our audience a wee idea of who you are. Where did you start things up, and what brought you into rugby?
Yeah, so David, originally from Makerfeld, that surprises a lot of people, because I think coming through teaching and teaching in England, I've adapted my accent a little bit as we go along. But Makerfeld boy, originally played sort of rugby at Rainey and Dowd School and went to sort of Rainey Old Boys and Dungannon. So that was really my first taste of rugby. And then obviously sort of moved over to England and in terms of finishing off my teaching degree and took up a teaching role there and continued really to play the game, suppose, at just an amateur level for enjoyment more than anything. And I guess really as I suppose come towards the end of my playing career, I really started to get an interest in terms of coaching and starting to really understand the game a little bit more in depth. So I think that was my sort of first taste and in terms of getting into player coach role and then into full-time coaching positions. My aspiration, suppose, has always been to try and get back to Northern Ireland and try and get back to Ulster and suppose just trying to wait for the right opportunity. So I was very fortunate a couple of years ago. There was I suppose a position come up from a rugby development perspective. And then really fortunate now in the last 6 months to get an opportunity of changing roles and really trying to build on the fantastic work that Kieran Campbell's done in terms of having some really strong foundations with the academy.
Well, you know what, and certainly we interviewed Kieran just before he left to go on down to Ealing, and certainly the sense that we got was, obviously whoever is going to follow, obviously a very tough act to follow, my dad.
but certainly the building blocks were there, and certainly certain names were mentioned. And we just know that when that selection's made, we know that it's going to be in safe hands. So from looking at the journey in rugby, as I said, I mentioned in my preambles that you spent a little bit of time in Nigeria, and then you spent some time with Northampton, sort of looking at sort of around the under-16 level.
Yeah.
Obviously here we've had the culmination of the under-16 Schools Cup. How did you manage to catch the game, or did you manage to get an idea of who to look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that competition's been fantastic, and I know been involved in those conversations towards the end of the season. I think there was a real awareness that there was a group of players that didn't get the opportunity of playing in the Medallion Shield in terms of having that competitive opportunity, and I think also just coming really off the back of the last 12 months, we're really aware that a lot of players have missed out on a really purposeful development window. So I think that under-16 competition, having the various tiers in it, has really provided those players with an opportunity where they continue to play with people of the similar age, where perhaps they're not been extended straight away, in terms of playing first 15 rugby, and it was fantastic certainly to see the game at Kingspan last week between Ballymena and Methody. It was a really an impressive performance from Ballymena in the first half. It was fantastic to see how Methody fought back, and I think there's for us lots of exciting players there that are currently part of our pathway, and also a couple of guys that we weren't aware of that certainly put their hand up and pricked a few ears for us to really keep an eye on moving forward as well.
Certainly. I caught a main portion of the game myself, and certainly, anytime you see a Methody fight back, you wonder how the opposition will actually cope with it. And I thought Ballymena coped really well with it, and managed to get that back. It was so impressive, and even on the sort of the lower end as well. I know that Limavady Grammar managed to draw.
Right, yeah.
Their final as well, and certainly it was something, again, it's something to keep an eye on, certainly from the clubs outside Belfast. But looking at that and sort of looking at, we know there's usually generally 4 or 5 schools generally trying to compete for the main trophies. What do you think could be done to sort of bridge the gap? Certainly, teams that are going into rounds 1 and 2, and obviously a lot of them maybe falling by the wayside by the time we get the senior clubs in there. What do you think could be done to bridge the gap?
Yeah, I think there's been, certainly from a competition perspective, I know there's been some really interesting work. A couple of years ago around changing the format of the competition, and certainly given, some of those lower tier school an opportunity where they played some group stage games. I think from a pathway perspective, we certainly recognize that there's lots of talented players that exist, across our club and school game, and certainly exist across various locations in the province. So I think for us, there's a couple of things that we've done over the last 6 months that we hope will really start reaping the benefits in the next maybe 2, 3, 4 years. One has been that we've moved our under-16 program now to a season-long program. So traditionally that would have been a sort of post-Easter program that have moved into the summer. So now we have access or have the ability to give those players from right across the province, a meaningful, and different rugby experience across the full 12 months of the season. And also we've a couple of additional roles. So we've 2 pathway coaches now, Daryl Maxwell and Ricky Andrew. And really, part of their remit now is to get out and support those players that are in our pathway that are perhaps from some of the less well-resourced rugby programs. So we do understand, there's some schools and clubs out there that coaches would really welcome the support. And it's about us getting out and trying to support those players in their own environment, and also, trying to support the coaches that are doing a fantastic job in terms of not only preparing those players to come into the pathway, but also trying to provide really good experiences for people to become, lifelong participants in the sport.
Yeah, I think that's certainly one of the key issues, and certainly where you have schools that are sort of competing against Gaelic games and football. It's obviously trying to keep them as interested in rugby as possible,
Absolutely.
so they can progress up the pathway. Turn to the academy itself. Obviously, you sort of got to know the people around there now, and now, mind you, now I'm a little biased. I'm Richie from Enniskillen, so obviously, guys who have come through like Rob Balakoon, obviously are going to sort of perk the interest. But in terms of strength and conditioning, obviously that's improved beyond measure in the last few years. With the lack of A games, or well, we've heard rumors of the A games may be reinstated, but where there's a lack of game time for players in an A game, how do they maintain their strength and conditioning? Do we release them back to clubs, or do they have specific programs given by Ulster?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, suppose, David. So for us, each of our academy players would have a carefully planned and coordinated playing profile of what their season is going to look like. So we've got a couple of examples. We've got some players that are involved in or hopefully be involved in the Irish under-20s national camps that are coming up and have taken place. And so for those players, their sort of playing profile might look slightly different, because hopefully they'll play some Six Nation games and potentially a Junior World Cup next summer. And then we've some academy players that sit outside that under-20s bracket. So very much their playing plan would be built around All Ireland League games and how we can use those clubs to support their development. So all of that's very meticulously sort of planned from a scientific, athletic development point of view. We've got some fantastic staff there, Matt Godfrey, that leads that department, and certainly, Matt will really track, suppose, the minutes that players, train and play, and the load they cover in the week, and really design, suppose, those programs on an individual basis as well. And I think that's where perhaps the sports, made massive gains now over the last few years, where there was lots of generic content now to, everything's really done on an individual basis, and those plans are put in place to try and support each of those players, hopefully to progress to the next part of their career, which is ultimately hopefully become a professional rugby player with Ulster.
Can you give us an idea of maybe some of the players that are currently maybe are on the cusp of making that jump up?
So there's probably a couple of guys you're aware of, the likes of Ben Moxham. Ben started to really get some exposure within the senior squad and get some game time within the United Rugby Championship, which is fantastic. Other guys then, I suppose, to note, and I think it's something that I'll give credit to Dan and the senior coaches, is having the ability for our academy players to train alongside the senior players on a daily basis really provides them a fantastic development opportunity. So you have other people like Harry Sheridan, who was involved in the pre-season fixtures against Saracens. Harry's certainly somebody we would hope in terms of second row, back row will really come through in the next 12 months. We've Jude Postlethwaite, who's been involved in the IRF U7s program, and Jude now is due to go off to Dubai in the next few days as well and compete in the World Series. So those are a couple of guys that are coming through, and then the likes of Ruben Crothers, who was involved in the Irish under-20s program last year, hopefully be involved in that again this year with James McCormick. So we've lots of really exciting talent to come through, and suppose the challenge for those guys now is to try and make the next step in their careers, and that's where we're trying to best support them.
Absolutely fantastic, and certainly we've seen Ben. He's almost become a constant now on the bench for the senior team, and certainly Crothers and Jude Postlethwaite certainly ones to look out for. Do you think just sort of as a final point, do you think they're worth the way the IRFU are currently sort of trying to deal with things and trying to move players around to give them adequate game time? Do you think any of the academies could find themselves heading to Munster or Connacht, or would you rather try and keep them in Ulster if you could?
Yeah, look, I think for us, and I certainly not the only one would express as an organisation, we're really passionate about developing homegrown players. And I think we're all, certainly I'm a real proud Ulster man, you know, and I know when you chat the likes of Bryn Cunningham, etc., they're all real proud Ulster man as well. So I think nothing would, you know, suppose fill us more with that sense of pride than seeing guys come through our system that go on to, you know, represent the province at a senior level. So certainly, you know, we do all our can, you know, our best we certainly can do to try and help the guys achieve that as well. But I think they're also the reality too from an IRFU perspective that if certain guys don't make it within a province, you know, it's really beneficial for those guys to, suppose, try and play the rugby or be retained within the island of Ireland as well. So yeah, probably not naive enough to say that it's not going to happen, but I think certainly from our perspective, we certainly try and do our best to get those homegrown guys through and hopefully go on and gain senior caps.
Oh, that absolutely fantastic, Gavin. Well, look, I know we're sort of short in time for now, but what I'd like to do, and I'd like to thank you first of all for taking the time out from a very busy schedule. I know you just come out of meetings left, right, and centre, so we know the schedule is pretty packed. We'd love it if you could come back and see us maybe sort of around the end of February for our show then, and maybe at the end of the season too, just to sort of give us an idea of where things have went through, and obviously look at progress during your first season with us.
No, absolutely, yeah, that would be greatly appreciated, and I really look forward to sort of hopefully sharing some of the good work that we're doing within the pathway.
And absolutely, and ourselves, we certainly will, continue to give the best, and certainly say my interest is on the Schools Cup side of things. So certainly, when the Schools Cup does come through, we'll be giving plenty of updates as they go. So certainly if I see anything myself, certainly we'll be in touch.
Super. Thank you very much, David. Look forward to catching you.
Thank you very much. And that's Gavin HOGG, ladies and gentlemen, from he's our Ulster Rugby Academy Manager, and very good luck for the season ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. David's had to go, by the way. He's been up since about 5 o'clock this morning, and he's had enough. Chris's jokes got them, mind you. I think they're good. I think they're good, but we've got the same sense of humor. Fantastic interview. Brilliant to see what we're doing with the academy, and I think there's a lot of good things in there. A couple of quick things I'm going to say. Aaron Sexton still doing 15, still playing sevens, still playing the A's. Dan McFarland wants him up to a certain level of 15 skill, I think, before he'll give him a full run in the A team, and he made that quite clear at the end of last season. Great talent. We're not rushing him in. We don't need to. So I think it was Keith Rolson asked it with Malone, as Gregor just said. Thank you, Gregor. And one more thing I'd just like to say quickly. Connor Broomfield made a point there about the sort of cyclical side of provincial rugby, and I think he made a very valid point. This is probably a couple of seasons thing. We don't have a lot of time to build for a World Cup, and with the cohesiveness of the Leinster side, and they've taken that cohesiveness, that team play, and they are the best province, and just basically tried to transport that into an international setup, and it's working so far. The results show that. So the only worry is it could have a really bad effect on Leinster, because we're going to pick. You're not going to win a tournament with 23 men. You're not. They're going to pick up. Well, Mark, there you go. And I don't know if that's a tongue-in-cheek comment or a head-up backside comment, but we'll see. But we do need. I think we need the other provinces to get in the mix. Whether that's they need to do more, they maybe need a wee bit of coaching with IRFU to get up there a bit. The Wolfhounds thing will probably help. There's a lot going on. I think we've got 2 seasons to do it, because I don't really see, barring injuries or somebody jumping out of the woodwork and going, "Hello, I'm here." I don't really see this squad changing a hell of a lot between now and the World Cup, because you can't have too many changes, can you? Unless they're forced. Right. So basically, this weekend, because this show's gone well tonight and gone long. Looking at the pundits and the fans, and quite a lot of Ulster fans. Poor old Ulster, we're not given a sting of a chance this weekend, Chris. And actually, I think Dan has kind of hinted that he has all his players available, bar Hendo and the ones we have on the injury list. But it's whether or not he thinks it's worth playing them this weekend. Do you think we're going to see diluted sides on both sides this weekend?
I think the injuries on both sides is going to have a massive impact. It's going to be interesting to see if any of the Irish selected players are going to have to be rested anyway under their central contracts. But I can't see either side really giving too much of a quarter. I think we're going to still see about a 80-90% full strength sides. It's not a game, that either side are prepared to throw away. Leinster going for an unbeaten run at this part of the second. No, they've already lost one of me. They're still going for. Have they had 5 wins? They lost one. Or did they draw one? Can't remember.
No,
but ultimately, pardon?
They had 5 wins, but they didn't get a bonus point in one of them.
That's it. That's where it went. That's where they dropped one. So I think they've still got a huge amount to play for to keep that run going. Ulster are coming off the back of that absolute hammering from Connacht. Now, whether or not Dan decides to try and put a break on that and actually give it a full beans to see how it goes, and it's going to be interesting to see. We've got the likes of Cooney coming back, and it's about where do we slot those players back in who are returning to play, and what impact will that have on the squad that are already in place anyway.
Cooney, I think Cooney will play this weekend because he's been out.
Yeah.
I think he'll play regardless.
He has to with the European games coming up.
But we've a home game against Connacht on the 26th, and we've the home game against Leinster on the
First.
New Year's Day. He's certainly going to put strong teams out for that. He's going to want to win those.
We've got European games in between, so Cooney has European games.
Yeah, so there's an awful lot to consider, and whilst we maybe will have some of the players available for all games, ones that didn't take part. There will be the player welfare system will kick in more for Leinster than anybody, and this is the downside for them, which is good. They have the depth because they're going to have to rest a lot of their players for a number of games over the next few weeks, and they just can't play them every week. So very interesting to see. It's always hard going down to Dublin and playing Leinster. We've a terrible record down there. And but Sufton, come on, the Ulster man.
Oh, it doesn't stop. It really doesn't stop, no matter where we are and who we're playing. The guys, and the nice thing is, as a support base, we're not just singing when we're running. We generally don't stop singing. That's exactly what the point is. And I think the players really respond to that. And it's just about getting behind them. And really, them having their own belief, the use of sports psychology, the strength and conditioning guys, those guys can really do what they're doing. It's then down to the match day 23 to pick it up and drive it over the line. And I just hope, I'd love to see a 1-point win for Ulster. I wouldn't care if it was. I'd be happy.
I want to see them put a result in because they were really poor against Connacht. They got picked apart too easily by Connacht. Connacht attacked one part of Ulster's game. And Ulster just didn't respond. And they could have responded. It was a manpower thing at the Rucks. Yeah. And they just didn't. I mean, they didn't turn up. And Connacht, everybody knew Connacht. After that Munster game, Connacht were going to be fired up for that one. Yeah. And they were.
There was no question.
They were fantastic. Yeah, they were fantastic. Yeah. But Ulster didn't do themselves any favours by not defending the Rucks and the Mauls well. And the Lion, they just dominated the Rucks and Mauls. And it was, but it was controllable. And Ulster didn't try to control it. Anyway, so that's what I want to say. I want to say a good performance this weekend. This weekend won't decide anything, but I want to see them bounce back from the Connacht game. Absolutely. Jude Boswell, by the way, we mentioned congratulations to him on getting into the sevens team. His uncle Gary Taggart will be very proud of him. I know Gary. I used to work with him, and he's very proud of Jude. He's always talking about him, mentioning him. So very proud guy. Pity about Ben Moxon. He'll not be going this time. He's out injured. And he was mentioned in that interview as well. And I have to tell you, I'm going to make a prediction that Ben Moxon is the next Stuart McCluskey. You heard it here first. But anyway,
I'd go with that all day. I absolutely back that. He's a big boy.
I saw the size of that lad when he came on the Lions game, and I went, "Geez, that's one big fella. He's a big unit." Right. So we've got that. I'm trying to think where we're at in their show here now, because that's gone so well.
Yeah. The Leinster game, let's pray for a damn good game in terms of good performances, good defense, good attacking plays, and let's go for an Ulster win because Joe said it'll be a draw, so we have to top that.
To be honest with you, though, in fairness, bar the odd game, the Leinster and Ulster games tend to be absolute corkers. Even when they stick the kids out, they tend to be tri-fests, and when they stick the senior teams out, they tend to be quite close. Unfortunately, they're always close against us. we need to. That's the bogey we need to turn around. And Dan McFarland actually did say that they've just got to respond this week, and that's it. So hopefully he's done. Moxham won't be available yet. Right. You've got some plans for the SWURC and Fan Zone on the 4th, the game against the Ospreys, where hopefully you might see Dwayne Vermeulen take the pitch. Tell us about that, Chris.
Okay, so first of all, guys, for those not familiar with South Wales Ulster Rugby Supporters Club, where have you been in the last 4 years, basically? But we're a bunch of expats that set up a supporters club. It was based in South Wales, but we've kind of become an expat supporters club across the mainland and further afield. Match day, we do try to do a regional fan zone, and next weekend, the 4th of December, we have got a significant fan zone organised for literally within a spitting distance of the what is it now, the Swansea.com stadium, otherwise known as the Liberty to everybody else. But yeah, it's going to be a day of just bringing together loads and loads of Ulster fans. We're now up to, I think, 61 people have committed to tickets through our little club for that match on the day. Johnny Petrie's hoping to pop in and spend a bit of time with us. And it is going to be literally a festival of rugby from the start, when 11 o'clock to whenever they decide to throw us out the next at whatever time that is. But importantly, it's about giving people a focal point. It's about sharing in rugby stories, creating memories, and more importantly, probably another thing, creating friendships across the game. And we're hoping the likes of Brandon might pop over and join me for a beer, and I'll get one in for him over the bar. So if Brandon Smith happens to be anywhere near the Cooper's Arms in Neath Road, which is a stone throw from the stadium, he is more than welcome to come in for a complimentary beer on us. It is going to be great, and if we can, the plan is, guys, we're going to do a live video link from the fan zone through the ThreeBOD rugby group, and hopefully as a result of that, you guys can also share in that fan zone experience as well. It would be great if we can tie up with Johnny Petrie at that time. If it happens to fall, we'll have a chat with Johnny beforehand and maybe get an interview with him for his thoughts and predictions going into the game. But it is going to be about 60 Santa hats on parade from the Coopers all the way down to the Liberty, still at this Swansea.com stadium. So yeah, loads going on, and everyone gets a pack of stand-up result, or as we know it, Richie's Cinnamon Lozenges. Match day treats all around.
I saw that.
Yes, you saw that. Match day treats, that's the plan.
I was trying to organise to get over that, but I just can't do it this time, mate. But we will be over. We will both be over. Yes. South Wales Ulster Rugby Supporters Club on Facebook. Join it. It's a lot more than a Facebook club, guys. This is they organise trips, they organise tickets, they organise merchandise. They've given awards to players that have been presented at Ravenhill, Kingspan, whatever you want to call it. This is a serious club, lads, run by Chris, a brilliant bunch of guys and folks. It really is. Join it. If you're an Ulster fan, join it. Brilliant people. And thanks for what you do, Chris, because you've got access to good people. You've brought in some nice interviews. But you just make the experience for the fans when they go to Wales so much better.
And that's what we set up for. We wanted to bring the Ravenhill roar to the valleys and beyond, and I think as a club we have definitely done that. And it's about that match day experience. People understand where to get tickets, where's the best place to stay, which flights, which trains, all that stuff to just make the journey more comfortable. Especially during the COVID times, we've just been told by Ospreys they're not expecting more than 10,000 people in the stadium, and the Ospreys have got an exemption because it's an all-seater stadium. They just need a ticket. There are no COVID passes into the Ospreys match against Ulster this Saturday fortnight. So it's all that stuff, especially during COVID. We're doing LFT testing at the fan zone if anyone wants to do a lateral flow test. We're chucking all that in as well, just so people feel fundamentally safe to be a part of the day. So we're doing as much as we can.
Brilliant. So join the site, folks. Get chatting to the lads. You'll get to know what it's all about, and you'll see what they do. Fantastic. Joel Williamson's just put something up we were going to mention there, and it's that we have 2 Ulster clubs with home semi-finals in the Junior Cup this weekend. Clocker Valley versus Newcastle West at the Crown, and Ballyclare versus Connemara All Blacks at the clock. And come on, Ballyclare. Well done to both teams for getting that far, and the best of luck at the weekend. Let's hope we're reporting that it'll be an All-Ulster final in that one. It would be great, wouldn't it?
Fantastic. We might even win it.
It's possible. And I think, I'm very close to Ballyclare. I went to school at Ballyclare, and a lot of people I went to school with and taught me are still there. None of them play, by the way, of course, but a lot of them are still there. So really good luck to the lads this weekend, and I hope you do it, and we'll see you in a final. Also, you're doing a live this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, weekend next day from the Ospreys. Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be from the fan zone, and that's what we're saying. Hopefully, JP can drop in on that session. We'll actually get a live interview with him as well, just pre-match or whatever. But yeah, it's going to be great crack. And if it's anything like the last time we were at the Coopers for the Ospreys Ulster game, which we did sadly lose the Ospreys, we were still doing a conga at 11:30 at night. It didn't really dampen the spirits one bit. The crack was still great.
Well, Johnny Petrie coming over to talk to you might depend on how many pints you've had, I would say.
Yeah, well, the last time we done a fan zone in Leinster down at the Horseshoe House for the quarter-final one year, by the time I'd done a radio interview for BBC Ulster, let's just say I should have been given the heads up that I was doing that interview first. And then I did catch up with JP, and I'm not entirely sure what I said to the big man.
I know you. I'd love to have seen that recorded. That must have been some crack.
The interview, I don't even know if they put it on the air name.
Oh my God. So that Joe will put some links up to that probably nearer the time.
Yep.
And for those of you that want to come in and have a listen to that, do. And Brandon might even turn up for a pint. Probably not if they lose, mind you. But
he's more than welcome. We can give him a sour pint or a happy pint. We don't care what he does.
And with a bit of luck, we might actually see Glenn
Vermeulen,
I would say, on the bench for that one. I'm not sure he'll start. I mean, the guy's played a lot of games, but I have a notion he might be on the bench for that one.
That's certainly the rumor. That's when he's first available. And I think if we're going to get him anyway ready for, obviously for the European games coming up, I think he has got to get some game time and starting to actually mix it up a wee bit. So
certainly,
it'd be fab.
Certainly. Have we heard anything? Because we got the player updates all the time, and just a couple of things. Rumor in the Twitter sphere that Leinster are seeking for a new second row.
Yes.
And that apparently Ulster may have just missed out on Stephen Kitsoff because of a payout fee on his contract.
Yeah, that's right. The buyout fee. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, well, that tells you one thing is evident. It looks like Ulster are looking for a tight head prop. Who's leaving?
Who's leaving?
Is it? I mean, is it Jack McGrath? Do you think? Because Jack's not played much, and he hasn't played. He's barely played at all, hasn't he, Jack? Is the Kitsoff deal definitely dead because they said allegedly?
No, I think that's a done deal. No, I think he's definitely not coming to Ulster. Last I seen that was a done deal. It's not happening for Ulster, and the Leinster seem to be the most likely to pick that up.
No, they're after a lock.
Well, that's right. Yeah, but they've got that lock, haven't they?
Who have they got?
That's another staffer.
No, somebody started an awful rumor that Duplessis was coming.
Well, I don't think it's Duplessis.
And it was a vicious rumor, and it wasn't true.
I'm sure. Gregor probably knows the answer. This is where we need Neil McHugh. We need the professor. He's on it like a rocket. But no.
The last I'd heard, they were still looking, that they were in the market for one, but I didn't hear they'd signed one. In the same report, they had said that Ulster had rumored to approached about Kitsoff, but
we're more likely to get Rossi.
But the buyout clause was an issue for Ulster. It cost too much to buy him out his contract, but that doesn't mean they stopped looking. Izzy Chukwu, have you heard anything about him?
Who's this? Sorry,
Izzy Chukwu. Have we heard anything about him?
He's still out with a knee. Yeah, he is. He's still off with a knee.
Oh, he is on it. Sorry. Yeah.
So just to go over that list: Hendy hamstring, Addison lower leg, obviously from fracture. Izzy knee injury, McGrath hip, Marshall knee, Geordie knee, stalkers, ankle, Moxham groin.
Hmm. So
And now we've got Bradley Roberts Welsh. I don't know if that's an injury, if that's just how it is.
Is he left? Has he left Ulster or?
No, he's got a year. He's in the last of his year of his contract. I do know that Wayne Pervac is hell bent on getting him into one of the 4 provinces.
Oh, he'll be off to one of the 4 regions next season, without a doubt.
So he
And
started off in.
Let's be honest, Chris. You know, Mr. Nusafora can be quite ruthless. I would say the phone call's already been made, and they've been told offload him at the end of the season. He's got no potential for us. Get rid of him.
I mean,
but I would imagine Pervac wants him in a region anyway. You know, without a doubt.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Rupert Moon brought him into RGC at the start of his career in the North Wales in the Gogledd Cymru way back when, before he came across to Ulster. So he's got, you know, the link to Welsh rugby already. Okay, it was in the North Wales Rugby Club back then, RGC, but I can see someone like Cardiff scooping him up, you know, for cover as much as anything else.
Well, some of our Welsh supporters or Welsh watchers might be able to tell us who is probably most in need of a hooker in the 4 regions, or even a backup hooker. But and I think a hooker we're okay, because we've got Herring, we've got
Andrew,
we've got John Andrew and Robert Stewart, who's back from injury now as well. I mean, I watched him in the under-20s and I thought he was superb. Yeah. I mean, the guy for a hooker, he's like a bowling ball.
Oh, he's great. I'd rather play with him than against him.
Yeah, even though he's that young, you wouldn't want to come up against that lad. He's a big unit. But so yeah, we're okay. But it looks like we may have a tight head Brock coming. It'll just be interesting to see who it's to replace, you know. But my guess would be, sadly, Jack McGrath, because he's been injured for a season, operations. He's not played for Ulster, really. I mean, has he played a handful of games at best? Yeah. So I think if anybody's going, it's going to be Jack, because the 2 lads, you know, they're not going to get rid of the other ones that are there. I don't think so. Right. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much us for tonight. That's been a show flew past, mate. Absolutely flew past. But
some great engagement there from the guys.
Yeah, we will be back. We will be back again. I can't recall the dates, but I think we've got one on 1st September. Obviously, you've got the live. Watch out for that at the Ospreys game that Chris will be doing, because I know Chris a while now, and you just never know who'll turn up at that. You know, you just don't know. And it could be well worth the watching and well worth a giggle. Great to see where we go. Six Nations is going to be interesting now. You know, we're obviously going to be looked at as one of the big favourites for that now, I think. And that's the thing for Ireland now. We've beat the All Blacks again. We've convincingly beat 2 other teams. Can we now move on and keep that going? And that's what Ireland have to do now. This can't be it. This is just the next step. And if they can, they're going to be contenders, but can they? Because I say, not being funny, brilliant, but we've been here before. Let's see what we do this time.
Might get beyond the quarterfinal.
Absolutely, mate. It'd be lovely to see them go further. But, you know, it's interesting days in the Irish rugby and the style of play and the intensity. It's brilliant. I think it's good to see.
Let's just hope they haven't been too soon. Again.
Absolutely. And I say, good luck to Jude Postlethwaite. Good luck to our 2 clubs at the weekend playing at home in the Junior Cup. Come on, let's have an All-Ulster final. Brilliant, lads. And guys, it's been fantastic talking to you and engaging with you this week. Chris, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Mr. Quinley.
Good stuff. Look forward to the next one, and maybe we'll get Dave with a bit less sleep in him. But he did do the interview, so we can't.
We'll give him a bye ball there.
And it was a bloody good interview. And thanks very much for that interview by both parties. And hopefully we will catch up with him again. But we'll let you know about the players he's talking about and any others that come along. And we will have a Schools Cup coming up. And that should actually start to bring through who some of the next generation are again. And we'll see. Folks, absolute pleasure as always. This has been Ulster Rugby Craic Chat. Back to business as the league starts this weekend. Part of the ThreeBOD group, and in partnership this time round with Knato Biltong. If you haven't tried any of their products, go look at their website, have a look. You can order them online and have them sent to you. Lovely stuff, great.
And they just nailed a silver and a bronze in the All-Ireland food for that section, didn't they? the weekend. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I mean,
and Hellbent got a bronze in their region. So
yeah, they're just on the up. These two firms, like, and the Ulster Rugby connection is very strong there, obviously, with Alana and Ilsa, and of course with Louis and Schalke. So anyway, brilliant. Thanks very much, folks. Thanks for tuning in. For those of you that watch this after the event, I hope you enjoy the show. Any comments, put them up. Any ideas or anything you'd like to see discussed, let us know. You know, because we can't cover everything and we don't think of everything. We're not that good. We're fans ourselves, you know. But we do love to hear what you want to talk about. If it's referees, count me out. Like, sick of that. Sick of that. That only ends in apologies anyway. Okay, folks. On behalf of the ThreeBOD group, thanks very much for your time, and we will see you next time. Chris, see you next time, mate. Enjoy the fourth.
Stay on. Cheers, guys.
Okay, folks.